Good evening, everyone. We're going to call our council meeting to order for Wednesday, June the 14th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for your attendance here this evening. We're going to start by asking Chief Renaud if he could possibly come up to the podium and make a public safety announcement for everyone.
There we go. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to tonight's council meeting. As you may realize, this was a very impromptu request for me to speak tonight. But just as a friendly reminder, in the event the fire alarm goes off this evening, we will exit through the rear. There's two exits that take us down to the main area. We'll all gather together in the parking lot. I already know how many people are here, so we'll be doing a head count to make sure everyone's here. And then we'll help point you down the stairs. As well as if there's ever a medical emergency, there's a defibrillator just outside of the chambers here. And the address here is 10 Robert Street in the event that you have to call 911. Hopefully it doesn't happen, but in the event that it does, you know where you are. Have a safe evening.
Thank you, Chief Renaud. Moving on, we're going to introduce our Penetanguishene land acknowledgement. Penetanguishene respectfully acknowledges that we are on the traditional and treaty territory of the Anishinaabe people and their ancestors, now known as the Williams Treaties First Nations territory. This includes Chippewa Tri-Council, comprised of Bosley First Nation, Rama First Nation, and the Georgina Island First Nation, Alderville, Curve Lake, Hiawatha, and Mississauga of Scugog Island First Nations. Also once home of the Huron-Wendat, and more recently, the historic settlement of the Métis. Penetanguishene is now home to many Indigenous peoples. Penetanguishene is proud of its Indigenous name, and more importantly, that for thousands of years, it has been and will continue to be an important homeland and gathering place for Indigenous people. We recognize that we are the stewards and caretakers of these lands and waters, and are responsible to ensure that our mother, the earth, is here for future generations. Moving on, number 3 is our welcome and council commitment. So again, welcome everyone for being here this evening. I'll ask council if we can stand, and then I'll start by asking Councillor Leroux if you can walk us through our French version of the council commitment.
Thank you, Your Worship. Engagement du Conseil pour la ville de Penetanguishene. Nous sommes reconnaissants des nombreuses grâces accordées à Penetanguishene et à ses citoyens dont la liberté, les possibilités et la paix dont nous jouissons. Que nous soyons des intendants dignes de tout ce qui nous a été confié. Nous demandons que toutes les personnes présentes et celles qui n'ont pas pu se présenter nous aident à promouvoir une bonne gouvernance, que nos décisions à titre de membres du Conseil soient éclairées et que nous soyons tous renforcés à prendre conscience de nos devoirs et responsabilités. Que l'on nous accorde la sagesse, les connaissances, la volonté et la compréhension qui nous permettront de préserver la bonne fortune de la ville au bénéfice de tous, ainsi que de faire de bonnes lois et prendre de sages décisions. Merci de votre présence.
Thank you, Councillor Leroux and Councillor Marshall.
We are grateful for the many gifts which have been bestowed upon Penetanguishene and its citizens, including the gifts of freedom, opportunity, and peace which we all enjoy. May we be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. We ask that all in attendance and those who could not be here assist us in promoting good governance. May our decisions as members of council be enlightened, and may we all be strengthened in our awareness of our duties and responsibilities. May we be grateful, may we be granted, the wisdom, knowledge, will, and understanding to preserve the good fortune of the town for the benefit of all and to make good law and wise decision. Thank you all for attending this evening.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. I'm just going to ask if we can all hold a moment of silence. Last week, a member of our community passed away who served on our police services board. I just want to recognize and honor Tom Lackey for his work he's done for our police services board. Thank you. Moving on, number 4 is our approval of the agenda. I have a motion here. I'm going to ask council for a deferral of item 12B, There's an item before us tonight that was published at two o'clock today, and just want to give a little more time for the public and council to review. So I'm hoping we can look at a deferral of item 12B. But with that, we have a motion that the agenda of regular council meeting June 14th, 2023 be approved as presented with the deferral of item 12B. Do I have a mover for that? Councilor Rowe, you moving that? Okay, and seconder? Councilor Marshall. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Thank you. Number 5 is declaration of pecuniary interest. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. And sorry, just for clarity, Sarah, is Councilor Vadabunker on? Okay, maybe you can just cue me just in. Thank you. Number 6, statement of members. This is an opportunity for members of council to share what's been happening since our last previous council meeting with members of the public. So every member has a few minutes to share that with the community. I'll start off by thanking and celebrating Karen, celebrating you, and that's what tonight's about. My apologies, I couldn't have been there last week, but I want to thank Councillor Benita DeRush for being there. As well, I want to thank Councillor stepped in a couple times, specifically at the Waypoint annual report a couple weeks back. Appreciate you being there, and also for a birthday celebration that unfortunately was rescheduled due to an illness, but I appreciate you helping out with that. As well, just after our last council meeting, myself and the CEO Jeff Lees, we participated at an auto mayors conference in Toronto, where municipalities across Ontario trying to work the best they can to help bring the auto manufacturing sector an opportunity and jobs and economic opportunity in the community. So I want to thank you, Jeff, for participating in that. I think that's a great opportunity for the community and our move forward. And as well, I want to recognize Kelly Cole. At our last council meeting, we were at the museum, and we were invited to participate at a veteran celebration event in Midland, where our neighboring municipalities were there. We were all out of council, so we couldn't be there, but Kelly proudly represented the community, and everything I heard was I have a harder job to meet up to that expectation, because she did a phenomenal job. So thank you to Kelly for that. We started last time, so start on the right. Councillor Waters.
Let's see, what have I done? We had our, I don't know what the proper word is. At an event at the public library that I attended, where we had drag queens come. And it was pretty well received by the folks that were there. Of course, everybody that was there wanted to be there. Children were happy and sang along. They couldn't quite understand why the words to the wheels on the bus got changed, but other than that, it was pretty good. And I had a number of people come in, talk to me about different problems, and we managed to sort of help them out a bit. And this morning, we raised the flag outside for Gay Pride Month.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. Councillor Rush.
Thank you so much, and welcome everyone. As mentioned by Mayor Rawson, I had the pleasure of volunteering at the recent Penetanguishene Senior Information Day. And it was held on Thursday, June 8th at the Penetanguishene Arena. More than 300 local seniors got to browse services from 50 vendors, enjoy live entertainment, have lunch, participate to the Senior of the Year presentation, hear presentations from guest speakers on important services, and many were winners of incredible gifts that were donated by generous vendors. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank all those who made the time to come out and to make that day a success. I'd like to thank our local vendors and our presenters, the many participants on the day of, and of course, our Recreation and Community Services staff who made it happen. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Councillor Rush. Deputy Mayor LaRose.
Thank you, Your Worship. Mine's short and sweet. On June the 3rd, I represented the town at the 60th Annual Centennial Review for the 724 Midland Lions Squadron Royal Canadian Air Cadets. So they had to announce that about 60 times there, and it was driving everybody nuts. They had a very nice set of displays on the ice surface at the Midland Arena. They did a number of impressive exercises that they did in all their marching and bands, and was a very nice afternoon, well attended, probably 350, 400 people. So That was our big one.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Smiling because we're not that we're keeping score, but Dan's keeping score. This is the second time I forgot to acknowledge the Deputy Mayor for stepping in. I was at a hockey tournament, so thank you. That's 2 for you. Councillor Marshall.
Great, thank you. Good evening, everyone. A few things. On May 12th, I attended on behalf of the town of Midland, on the town of Penetanguishene as a representative on the my bad, sorry. I don't know why I said Midland. Oh my gosh. Can you take that off the recording? I've got a few things I want to say, and I think I'm just trying to get through them too quickly. Represented the town of Penetanguishene with the SSCA to plant some trees as part of our the tree planting initiative that went forward. I was at council that previous Wednesday and said I would represent, and I did plant the most trees in all the municipalities that were present. Not to brag, but I made us proud. I did really a great job. And so I know how to plant a tree now, like the skills that you learn that come along with being a member of council is wonderful. I participated today in our Trails Committee meeting, and we had a really fantastic and really robust meeting. And so we're really excited to have our trails and bicycle coordinator that we've been trying to fill that position for quite some time. And kudos to Melody, who's also stepped up and helped us out at the wharf because we were short staffed. So talking about a small but mighty group of staff that step up and do everything that's asked. So that was really fantastic. And she also managed to really kick off a fantastic June month, which is Bike Month. So I have a bingo card here in front of me. Those are available here at Town Hall, and we are promoting. There's different stamps that you can complete to participate, and that there's a draw at the end of the month. You can also go on the Facebook page of the town to participate, and just really encouraging everybody to get on their bikes. I have to put air in my tires, and was going to bike to council tonight, but that didn't happen. I can't carry ball hockey equipment on my bicycle, I'm finding. And on June 24th, we'll also be doing some promotion on the trail to really encourage people to discover and really take advantage of the Penetanguishene trails. And on that, my son is playing in the final game of Penetang Midland Ball Hockey Association finals tonight at 9:30 p.m. So chop chop, and would really like to be able to see part of that game tonight. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. I believe your son's playing my son, so we both will be there at 9:30 tonight. Councillor LaRue.
I would probably say, your worship, that neither one of you are going to make it. Yes, one missed last Sunday. I was pleased to attend the blessing of our flower garden at Martyr Shrine on behalf of Mayor Rawson. This evening, I'd like to inform members of council and the public that the Friends of Penetanguishene Centennial Museum are in full gear of preparing for our Canada Day celebrations on the museum grounds. And I note that I'm also pleased to see that our chief has lifted our fire ban. And so the fact that we are the ones having fireworks this year, we will be able to hopefully set them off.
Thank you, Councillor LaRue. Lots of great things happening. CEO Lise, I'll ask you to respond as well on behalf of the administration.
Thank you, Mayor Rawson. Just a couple things to note. It's already been noted, but Seniors Day this past Thursday, I had the pleasure of joining, and every year I continue to be amazed at the work that's done and the vendor participation, and of course the hard work that goes into that event from many volunteers as well as staff. So kudos to those that played a role in making that happen. Secondly, we are hosting a staff appreciation tomorrow for our good employees that make this operation at the municipality run smoothly. So we appreciate the patience of the community while we have a short closure of our offices and facilities. We did host a very similar event this evening for our volunteer firefighters. So a real opportunity to say thank you to everyone, not only our staff tomorrow, but our volunteer firefighters this evening. And for probably most people are aware, there was an unfortunate boat fire on Monday evening, and just an example of the good work that our firefighters do day in and day out, and the sacrifice that they make as well as their families at all hours of the day. And the last piece is our strategic plan continues to plug forward, and excited to see that project come round and round, and look forward to seeing that come in front of committee of the whole with eventual adoption by the end of the summer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. Moving on, 7 is our public meeting. We don't have one this evening. 8 is proclamations. We have a couple. Before I read out 8A, do any members have any comments regarding this proclamation before we read it? Councillor Rush.
So we're speaking to proclamation, the first proclamation, Penetangwisheen Day. I feel that this proclamation is premature. I know that this day was discussed with the Heritage Committee. And there was a presentation. They were privy to a lovely presentation, I believe, from Mr. Dupuis. We did not get that consideration. So I'm certainly very supportive of this this day, but I would like to have the privilege of hearing maybe the same information that the Heritage Committee received. And then I think that I would feel more comfortable in moving forward with the proclamation.
Thank you, Councillor Drush. Do you have a question you're posing? Are you moving anything?
Well, I would like to move that this be deferred until until council receives a presentation from Mr. Dupuis and anyone else who supported him with this with the preparation of this this day.
Okay, we have a motion to defer by Councillor Drush. I'll look for a seconder on that motion. I don't see a seconder, so that fails. Do we have any other comments or questions on this proclamation as presented? Seeing none, I'll read the proclamation. It's regarding Penetangwisheen Day on August the 1st, whereas the historic and cultural foundations of Penetangwisheen are those of Ontario itself. And whereas Penetangwisheen is an officially confirmed bilingual town, and whereas Penetangwisheen is historically recognized as the home of many First Nation, including the Huron and Wendat, followed by the arrival of the French, the British, along with the arrival of the Métis at this time. And whereas living heritage and enduring legacy deserves to be enshrined in Ontario law and actively promoted throughout our province. And whereas the Town of Penetangwisheen's Museum and Heritage Committee passed a motion in support of the development of the legislative bill designed to celebrate and promote Penetangwisheen's rich historic and cultural patrimony. And whereas the Council of the Town of Penetangwisheen support the legislative initiative from Alexander Roman and David Dupuis to support the creation of provincially designated Penetangwisheen Day, celebrated on August the 1st each year, involving the annual acknowledgement of the town's heritage and legacy. Now therefore, I, Mayor Doug Rawson, on behalf of the Council of the Town of Penetangwisheen, proclaim August 1st each year Penetangwisheen Day. I'll look for a mover. Councillor LaRue, seconder. Councillor Marshaw. Any further comments or questions regarding this motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. And B is a proclamation regarding the World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. Before I read this, any members have any comments or questions? Seeing none, whereas the Town of Penetangwisheen's older adults deserve to be treated with respect and dignity and valued as contributing members of society, imparting a wealth of experience and wisdom in our communities. And whereas the International Network for the Prevention of Elder Abuse, in support of the United Nations International Plan of Action, proclaim this day to recognize the significance of elder abuse as a public health and human rights issue. And whereas the Town of Penetangwisheen recognizes the importance of taking action to invest in creating social change, to prioritize the prevention of elder abuse and raise awareness to foster a better understanding of abuse and neglect of older adults and their rights. And whereas elder abuse has a significant impact on the lives of older adults and families and is not limited to race, gender, culture, or circumstance, and regardless of whether the abuse is physical, emotional, sexual, financial, or neglect. And whereas ageism and social isolation are major causes of elder abuse in Ontario, and whereas recognizing that is up to all of us as citizens, organizations, communities, and governments to work collectively to prevent violence and abuse of older adults in their homes and communities. And whereas preventing abuse of older adults through improving and maintaining social and health services and systems such as housing, income security, and safety will improve their quality of life and allow them to live independently and contribute to the vibrancy of Ontario. And whereas, where there's a respect for human rights, equality, and justice, there can be no abuse. Therefore, all Town of Penetangwisheen residents are urged to join this global movement to promote the rights of older adults and stop abuse and restore respect. Now therefore, I, Doug Rawson, Mayor of the Town of Penetanguishene, Ontario, do hereby proclaim June 15, 2023 as World Elder Abuse Awareness Day and encourage all residents to recognize and celebrate seniors and their ongoing contributions to the success and vitality of our province. I'll look for a mover. Councillor Marchand, seconder, Councillor Drush. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. 9 is our deputations and presentations. We have 3 this evening. Our first one's a presentation from Dr. Etcheverry regarding the Climate Solutions Park at Ecology Garden. And I'll ask you to come to the podium virtually, please. Yep.
Thank you so much. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, proceed.
Oh, thank you very much. I just didn't know if you could hear me. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jose Etcheverry. I'm part of the founding member group of the Climate Solutions Park, and we have all our founding members in the call with you today. We've been told to stay within 10 minutes, and we will do so. The first thing I want to do is say in English, thank you, en français aussi, merci beaucoup, to the town of Penetanguishene for allowing us to develop a Climate Solutions Park in the beautiful town of Penetanguishene. And I congratulate the council for the motion about August 1st. So basically, rather than do a PowerPoint presentation, I want to refer everybody to the PDF that we sent, which contains the macro level discussion of why and how we are doing this Climate Solutions Park. In the interest of time, I'm not going to expand too much other than opening it up for questions that council may have. And allow my colleague Codrina Ivanescu to address council, so you can hear from the perspective of a young person why and how we're doing the Climate Solutions Park. Codrina, if that's okay with you, could you turn your video on and your, thank you so much. And we will leave just a few minutes of our presentation after Codrina has a chance to address council and the citizens gathered at the call to basically provide a request that has to do with the work that we hope to do next week. So I'm gonna stop there to allow my colleague Codrina Ivanescu to address council. Codrina, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Jose. Council, it's really a pleasure to be here and to speak with you. And we're really excited to share the Climate Solutions Park work that we are working on together for the local Toronto region, Penetanguishene, and hopefully nationally and internationally in the near future. Just as a short reiteration of what Jose was mentioning earlier, the mission of the Climate Solutions Park is to build local spaces where climate solutions can be implemented and scaled exponentially. And the vision is to create a worldwide network of local people working together to solve the climate emergency using practical and replicable strategies that inspire and empower others to do more and faster. On a very pragmatic level, over the last year and more, we have been bringing forward students from York University and the general community region up to Penetanguishene, and they have been extremely amazing in their support for the Penetanguishene region in building hexagonal garden beds at 144 Fox Street. We have also worked on an outdoor kitchen, and we are looking to enhance the biodiversity of the region through further research on the water quality and soil quality of the Penetanguishene region. And furthermore, we are very eager, and this is a part of the request from our end, we're very eager to involve the residents and community of Penetanguishene in the work that we continue to do through the gardens that we will build to help increase native plant biodiversity in the region and to create a living laboratory that showcases sustainable technology, community engaged and participatory research, as well as knowledge and pragmatic climate solutions. And furthermore, of course, the sustainable technologies we were mentioning, regenerative agriculture, permaculture. And another request that we have is to allow for students to stay overnight in 144 Fox Street, or to find a solution for students from the Toronto and local Toronto region to be able to spend multiple nights in the Penetanguishene region to continue the ongoing support for 144 Fox Street and the Climate Solutions Park that we are very eager and enthusiastic to continue working on this summer. And we're also very enthusiastic and eager to explore any potential fundraising that we can do together with the city to support the local development, regenerative agriculture, sustainable technology, as well as the local infrastructure that we are constructing there. Thank you very much, Council, for allowing me to speak. I wish I had a little bit longer, as there's so much more to talk about, but we'll leave that to next time.
Thank you, Kodrina. I think we have about 4 minutes left, if my timing is correct. I want to allow also the opportunity to speak and to address council to our planner in our team, Mr. Marian Boychev. Marian will provide a perspective from his own experience about accessibility and the need for making the climate solutions parks into accessible areas for everybody. Marian, do you want to address council? Is that okay with you? Would you be able to turn your camera on? Thank you, Marian.
Yes, it's no problem. Accessibility is very important for to make sure that everyone is involved in order to create a climate solutions park that everyone can access, and all of the citizens and all of the residents of the town of Penetanguishene can access. And it is very important to make sure that the Climate Solutions Park serves the entire community and region of the town of Penetanguishene. Also, it is very important to make sure that all the planning aspects are completed on time for the building of the Climate Solutions Park.
Thank you, Marian.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity to address the town of Penetanguishene. Thank you.
Thank you, Marian. Marian has a degree on a master's degree on planning, and he's advising us on how to do accessibility strategies and ensure the sustainability of the site through the knowledge he has. I do have 2 other colleagues with me, Jacqueline and Noel, which are the people that spearhead the Climate Solutions Park that we're building in Toronto, and have a great deal of experience doing sustainable farming. I do realize we only have 1 minute left, so I'm not sure if I'll have time to address council, but I did want to acknowledge them. I want to also acknowledge Malsi Agengupura, that it's also with us. Thank you, Jacqueline. As you can see, Jacqueline is on the field working on the Climate Solutions Park in Downsview. So Malsi also represents us and the work integrated learning. We're only 1 minute to the 10 minutes that we were provided, and I'm very respectful of council's time. allow me to conclude by saying that we want to build this climate solutions park, and we request kindly that you consider to meet with us next week. We hope to be there Wednesday, June 21st, Thursday, June 22nd, and Friday, June 23rd, in 144 Fox Street to answer any questions that the folks in the audience may have, any citizens that may want to meet with us, and any staff or elected representatives. And as Kodrina mentioned, we would really appreciate the opportunity to sleep on the site. We're testing a new technology of tents that we're going to use in the next climate solutions park we're building in Costa Rica. So it'd be a good opportunity to test our technologies, but also to be able to do work there because the hotels are very expensive. We work with inner city youth that doesn't have huge amounts of money. And the hotels, for example, in Midland or Collingwood are extremely expensive. And to my knowledge, there's no hotels in Penetanguishene as of right now that could accommodate us. Perhaps I'm wrong on that one. But for us, we need to be in the land to understand the land, to talk to the other gardeners. And I'm going to wrap it at that because I keep my promises and we're at 10 minutes and a few seconds. If you have any questions, comments for us, we're happy to address them. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you very much for your presentation. The audio was a little difficult on our end. I'm going to hold the questions if any members of council would like to ask questions. We'll bring that through committee report process due to the difficulty in communicating. But thank you so much for presenting to us this evening, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry about the audio quality. I hope you could hear what we were trying to say, though.
So the next item on our agenda tonight is to recognize the great people that make this community. I said all along that the thing that makes our community fabulous is the people. I think everybody that is part of our community makes it the best that the community can be. And Karen, we're here to celebrate you tonight. The people you've touched, the lives you've touched. If I come this close to touching half of those, I think I'll have lived a great life and done some tremendous things. But you know, I don't think, and by the show of everybody here tonight, that, you know, the number of people you've impacted is immeasurable. And that's truly what makes the community fabulous and what it is. So thank you for you. Thank you for what you do. Thank you for everything you have done and all the lives that you've touched. I think it's unmeasurable. I just want to read a little description about Karen and why Karen is who Karen is and why we're celebrating Karen. So Karen truly is one in a million. I would argue it's actually one in a billion human being. She's a dedicated volunteer, a talented event organizer, and is highly regarded by every single individual who has been impacted by the part of the Georgian Bay Cancer Support Center family. Karen and her family have been affected by cancer in more of a personal and trying way than any individual should. She and her family have spent the better part of the last several decades in and out of hospital dealing with the never-ending battle that is faced by people impacted by cancer. Yet, she has used and continues to use this experience to make her community a better place. As a member of the Georgian Bay Cancer Support Center, Karen serves as a mentor, a resource, and an inspiration to other members attending the group programs and services. She is part of an invaluable network of people who can provide support for one another through their journeys. She dedicates hours each week between hospital appointments to being at the center, engaging with other members, and sharing what she's learned through her journey to help them through their own. As a volunteer, Karen cannot be replaced. She has taken leadership roles in several major events and fundraisers. She worked tirelessly alongside staff members and navigated the complexities and sensitivities of hosting a memorial gathering for families of those who have lost their lives. Karen is a steady force at the Georgian Bay Cancer Support Center and within our community. The value that she provides to the organization is mirrored by what she provides as a member of the Penetanguishene Lions Club, the Penetanguishene Museum and Heritage Advisory Committee, and Friends of the Penetanguishene Centennial Museum and Archives. It's hard to fathom someone who has every reason to carry a grudge against the world, but instead she's given so much in return. But that is what Karen chooses to do day in and day out. Karen continues to play an incredible role in improving life in Penetanguishene for so many people. And we can expect that we'll see her continue to leave her mark for years to come. Karen, on behalf of the town of Penetanguishene and the entire community, I want to celebrate you, recognize you, and thank you for all you do and honor you as Senior of the Year for 2023. Now I'll ask Benita if you can come up and help with the presentation. So Benita, thank you to you for the presentation last week. I really appreciate it. And Benita is on the community well-being, which facilitates and works this process. So we'll do our presentation. Again, thank you, Benita. And Karen will ask you if you can come up. Karen, thank you so much. Like, thank you is not enough to say for, again, everything you've done and the people you've helped and all the lives you've impacted. Again, it's immeasurable. Thank you for everything. Do you want to say anything? You want to come here, Karen? Some people can hear because we are.
Okay, poor Mike, he's gonna be mad at me. He was very innocent. I phoned him a week ago, Thursday, because he was coming up to help with my hot tub. And his big boss walked by and he's at work. And he puts the phone down and I guess he forgets that I'm still on the phone. And David goes, "Oh, Mike, I see you have tomorrow off." And he goes, "Yeah," he says, "I'm taking Friday off, got to go up to Penetang, got to see my mom, going to help her with the hot tub." "Oh, how is your mom?" Now, if any of you knew my husband, Jerry, who worked for Tiny, anyway, I digress. Jerry worked when we moved to Mississauga and Jerry was in the planning department down there. Dave was just the same as Jerry. But then since then, Mike's works for the city of Mississauga now in the planning department. And he goes, "Oh, I haven't seen your mom for a while. Tell her hi." And that's really nice or something about him coming up to help me. And he goes, "Well, yeah," he says, "and my mom, she won some sort of award." So I don't say anything. And he picks up, has this little chit chat with Dave and then gets back on the phone. He goes, "I think I blew it." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "Never mind." And then he continued and he says, "I'll see you tomorrow." So then he came up for the weekend. Nothing was said. Him and Laura confab, nothing was said. And I didn't realize what it was until all this nonsense on Thursday when Irene's telling me that we have to go for lunch and we're cutting through the lines and I go, "But why?" And she says, "You'll see, just sit down and shut up." So I did what I was told. So it was very innocent on my son's part. Okay, but anyway. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And then Laura got a hair appointment for me real clickety split. And I go, why do I have to get my hair cut? And she goes, because you do. And that was it. So that's it. That's my story and I'm sticking to it. Thank you, John.
Sherry, I believe you have a couple words.
Sorry, thank you, Your Worship. I was just going to note that if the presentation's complete, there's also a cake and some refreshments for Karen and her guests back in the committee room. And Angel is happy to bring folks there and guide the way.
Thank you, Sherry. Thank you again. Like Sherry said, there's still lots more fun and excitement on our agenda. So if you want to stay for the fun, stay. If you want to go, there are refreshments. We'll give you a minute if you do want to vacate. If not, there's lots more on our agenda. And not that Councilor Marshall wants to get to the game. All right, moving on. Next item on our agenda is 9C. It's a deputation from Lindsay DeMoncas regarding the short-term rental. Lindsay, I'm going to invite you to the podium. You'll have 10 minutes to share your comments with council. So I was going to go to the podium. At the bottom, you'll see a little microphone switch Carrie can help you with, and then it's all yours.
I'm going to pull up my letter here. Okay. Good evening, everyone. I just want to thank you all for taking the time to listen to me. I am just going to read my letter that I wrote to all of you. My name is Lindsay DeMoncas. I have been a resident of Penetanguishene since 2006. My husband and I have 3 young children. Together, we share 30 years of combined experience in law enforcement. We chose to start new careers in order to spend more time with our children. And I came across the idea to run our home as a short-term rental. When I did this, I looked on the Penetanguishene website for legislation or bylaw, and I didn't see anything. So that was in March of 2022. The house is our primary residence. I spent all my savings renovating our home, secured a campsite 10 minutes away in LaFontaine to be close to our house. The house was listed on Airbnb June 17th, 2022. And then on June 19th, I was officially up and running on Airbnb website as a seasonal rental. I ended up renting to 30 different groups of people from June 24th, 2022 to October 10th, 2022. And then we moved back into our home. I am proud to say that I have a 4.95 out of 5-star rating as a superhost. I have also had not one complaint from neighbors. I was made aware that the town council had recently introduced local bylaws in regards to short-term rentals. While I understand that some hosts can be disengaged, which leads to party houses, that is not our situation. We are responsible hosts who are available to our guests. We screen for families and professionals. Parties are not allowed. When I heard about these bylaws, I was so thankful that I was in the fortunate position to be grandfathered in. Doing my diligence, I started the tedious process of trying to license my Airbnb. When I was almost finished with the application, I was informed by the bylaw department that apparently the zoning had changed around my home. Unless my Airbnb ad was active by June 8th, 2022, I would not be able to run my short-term rental.
Because of this, I am 11 days past the accepted date for being grandfathered in, and now I'm not eligible for a license. This rezoning of my home began in 2019 and was closed in June of 2022. I quit my job. I secured my site at LaFontaine Campgrounds for this year. I have 14 groups of people booked, registered my Airbnb as a business, and I invested in a used larger trailer for all of us to live in for the summer. And now I am being told no, not because I had any complaints or did anything wrong, strictly because the town changed the zoning and I was unaware that I needed to have my house advertised by June 8th, 2022. And to be blunt, that isn't fair. I am respectfully requesting that you consider suspending the zoning bylaw 2022-17 STR June 8th, 2022. I have applied for the rezoning and submitted the $2,500 fee. I am located on Robert Street East. The house resides on a very busy road and it's less than 350 meters to downtown. The house is also across from an old Penetanguishene hospital, which is zoned as institutional. As per my many conversations with bylaw, I am told the earliest I will have an answer is by October 4th. That means I may lose a whole season. I found a job that I love doing, a job that supports my family and also helps the economy. I'm a mother that has put everything into this dream. I would like to also add that Penetanguishene does not have any hotels, yet we host multiple sporting events like soccer tournaments, hockey tournaments. I would also like to add that tourism in our area has gone up 50%. I have spoken to all my neighbors over the last 2 days. I went to every single surrounding house around my property and I talked to each homeowner and nobody had any complaints. And in fact, I was able to find some support within meeting some new friends as well. So I just, I'm really hoping that council can consider where I'm coming. I am a responsible person and I just really would appreciate a little bit of consideration in regards to this matter. If you have any questions, I'm here too.
Thank you, Lindsay. Do any members of council have any questions? Seeing none, thank you, Lindsay, for your presentation this evening.
Thank you
This
for
matter is not before council night, but if any member wants to bring it forward, they know where to bring that forward in the future. If you have any questions, you can follow up with our CO or our clerk about next steps. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on, 10 is adoption minutes, not already confirmed. 10A, we have a motion that the following minutes of council meetings be confirmed and adopted as circulated. We have council from May 10, 2023, special council May 10, 2023. I'll look for a mover. Councilor Marcia, seconder, Deputy Mayor LaRose. Any comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. And so before I move on, Sarah, I think you said Councilor Vedabonker has joined us. Okay. Councilor Vedabonker? Okay. We'll just
hello, your worship.
That's okay. We'll move on. 11 is our consent agenda. Before we adopt our consent agenda, any members of council have any comments or questions regarding any items on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I have a question and I'll direct it to our CEO. Jeff, under 11A, it's a memo regarding our budget timeline. And in there, it speaks to a survey, which I'm going to appreciate and applaud staff for forward thinking on how you're going to put that on the mailer going out to everybody in July. I really appreciate that work and what you're doing with that. I think it's phenomenal and enough. I can't give enough kudos and appreciation for that. My comment and question. The survey is open from July 24th to August the 24th. I'm just concerned it's middle of summer and that not everyone may not be able to contribute by the time we close on August 24th. Would we be able to extend that a couple weeks? I would say even 2 weeks, extend that into, a week past school starting, say the second week of September. would that cause a big ripple to the process? I'm just wondering about that from a process standpoint.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to look over at our Director of Finance, Treasurer Carrie Robillard, and ask Carrie to speak to this because I think it's probably best suited that she does. But great question.
Thank you. Carrie?
Thank you, Your Worship, for your question and clarification. No, that change, we could extend it without it affecting, the original timeline was for the month of September for a 1-month period. But in order to better coordinate with the newsletter mail out, obviously, having it 6 weeks, not an issue whatsoever. So, we are going to open it live the week of July 24th, because that's when the newsletters are going out. We're going to put on the QR code, but certainly we could leave it open. Might I suggest until, after Labor Day weekend, maybe give that week time to complete it. So Monday, September 11th.
Thank you. Jeff, you don't need an amendment or anything like that. That's something operationally staff can do. We can just accept the consent as is. And
Yeah, through Your Worship, but I don't think that we need specific direction on that. I think that's certainly something that within staff we can do. This was just kind of a note to share the slight deviation that we were making. So I think it can easily be done at a staff level.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Carrie. And I really appreciate us putting that out in that newsletter and really getting ahead. I think it's a huge, great thing we're doing from a communication standpoint. The second one is on 11B regarding the investigation from the ombudsman. I read the letter, but I'm just going to ask the CEO if you can help provide a little clarity for council and the community. What really is this investigation about? Like, it's a little unclear what it is. It's just I read it and I'm not really sure what it's about. If you could just provide clarity where you can.
Thank you, Worship. The complaint that's been brought forward and which is articulated a little bit in the letter, but I appreciate that there's probably it would assist if I add a little bit of context to it. The complaint that was brought forward was a complaint under the open meeting provisions of the Municipal Act that there was a meeting held on April 19th, 2022 by the task force, the Harney Airport Task Force that falls under the Airport Commission that did not comply with the open meeting provisions within the Municipal Act. That complaint is now being investigated by the Ombudsman's Office. This has been ongoing with the Ombudsman's Office for approximately 8 or 9 months. My understanding is the initial part of it was fact-finding, and they've now kicked off their official investigation. I was interviewed by the Ombudsman. I know our clerk, Stacey Cooper, has had several conversations with the Ombudsman as well. And I know that they're doing their interviews and gathering facts and gathering information with the hope that we will have a decision in the near future. I asked the question around timing, but I couldn't get any clarity around when we might expect a decision, given the length of which this has been ongoing. But it's really about them making a determination on whether or not the Airport Commission subcommittee, I'm going to call it, which is the task force, falls under the open meetings provision of the Municipal Act. So that's really what the complaint is about as it relates to that meeting that was held on April 19th, which, for clarity, was a presentation, I say meeting, but presentation from the task force to the 3 respective councils, whereby there was no decisions made. It was simply information that was provided. It was live streamed on the Town of Penetanguishene Zoom account. We took care of the IT for that meeting. And we really tried to make it as open and transparent as we possibly could. And so that's really the crux of what the letter is about and what the investigation and, that has resulted as, from the complaint that was provided. So hopefully that provides a little bit more context.
Thank you, Mr. Lees. I appreciate the openness and transparency about governance, what this is about. And I think it's important we just talk about that in open. Any other members of council have any further comments on these consent agenda items? Seeing none, we have a motion that the following consent agenda items having been given due consideration be received for information. I'll look for a mover. Deputy Mayor LaRose, seconder. Councillor Marchand, further comments, questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. 12 is matters for consideration. 12A is a matter regarding the Martin Valley Park Tender Award. I have a motion that Phase 1 of the Martin Valley Park Tender be awarded to Palcon Incorporated, and that staff be given delegated authority to award Phase 2 of Martin Valley Park following further investigation with Palcon Incorporated on the details of pump track design, and further that up to $77,446 from the Parkland Reserve Fund be utilized if required for the pump track to be constructed in 2023. I'll look for a mover. Councillor DeRush, a seconder. Councillor LaRue. I'm just going to turn to you, Sherry, just for a quick update review on this and where we're at with this coming directly here tonight. Just so everyone has a quick overview, and then comments, questions from council.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. The municipality recently updated its procurement policy. So generally, staff have the authority to award projects unless we're changing how we're funding it. So we had proposed that this project take place in 2 phases over 2 years, with phase 1 being the bulk of the work to the improvements to the project, and phase 2 being the introduction of the pump track for next year. The project, we received 2 bids, and the lowest bid actually came in slightly under budget, which does not happen very often and is very exciting. However, phase 1 is a little more costly, and phase 2 is less costly than we thought. So we also do not have the development charges in the bank, so to speak, that we had anticipated funding part of this project with, because of the changes that were made to the development charge legislation. So we're just asking to council to give us the authority to move the projects both this year, and instead of using development charges, we were originally going to use 125,000. We're going to use 77,000 instead of parkland cash in lieu of parkland. So we're changing the way we're funding it. And moving one of the projects up potentially. So the other piece to that, when we tendered it, we said these are the bare bones of what we want to get a price on, and we're going to award. And here's some a la carte items. We don't know if we're going to award this, but we want to get some prices on it. And one of those provisional or a la carte items was the pump track. And we had put it out there as a design build. So we would be paying them to design it and build it. So we don't know for sure what we're getting yet because it hasn't been designed. Are we getting a Pinto or a Cadillac? So we're also asking staff, council, to give staff some leeway to have those discussions after we've awarded the bare bones to determine what kind of pump track we'll get, and then we can negotiate with them to either award that piece or not award that piece. But we can't start those discussions until we give them the bare bones contract, if that makes sense.
Thank you very much, Sherry. Do any members of council have any comments or questions regarding this? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Again, 12B is deferred. 12C, before I read this motion, I'll just give a little background. I asked the clerk last week if she could kindly put this on our agenda for tonight. This was a motion that came to county council 2 meetings ago. You've probably seen in the news that the provincial government is re-looking at the organizational structure of some upper tier municipalities. Members of lower tier municipal government came to county council, stressing that the county of Simcoe delivers a great service to our lower tier governments. And they felt that this was an important thing, that we sent a message from the county of Simcoe to the province to say, we feel strongly about the county and its support of the 16-member municipalities. That passed 29-3, I believe, was the vote at county council. And the member municipalities, the lower tier municipalities, are working within their lower tier governments to further support the county on this. So I thought it was important we had the discussion here tonight to bring that forward. That's what this motion was, and it's literally the same motion that county council looked at. I'll read it out in a moment. Are there any comments or questions regarding this? Seeing none. 12C's a dissolution regarding Peel Region. That's where this came forward from. Whereas the Honorable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, stated in relation to Bill 112 the dissolution of Peel Region, that in the coming weeks, the province will also name regional facilitators to assess the upper tier municipalities of Durham, Halton, Niagara, Simcoe, Waterloo, and York. These facilitators will be tasked with reviewing whether the upper tier government continues to be relevant to the needs of its communities or whether the lower tier municipalities are mature enough to pursue dissolution. Where they recommend that a two-tier government is still required, the facilitators will also make recommendations on how they can more effectively respond to the issues facing Ontario's fast-growing municipalities today, particularly when it comes to meeting municipal housing pledges and tackling the housing supply crisis. And whereas the County of Simcoe has previously requested that a facilitator be assigned to assist in efficiencies and support a review of services specific to ensuring that the provincial goal of constructing 1.5 million new housing units in the next 10 years can be achieved. Now, therefore, be it resolved that Simcoe County Council, made up of the mayors and deputy mayors of the member municipalities, believes strongly in the tiered governance composition, structure, and current state of maturity of the municipality supported by the County of Simcoe that delivers tremendous essential services and benefits our residents of Simcoe County. And that pursuing the dissolution of the County of Simcoe should absolutely not be the consideration of the provincial facilitator, and that staff be directed to work with the province of Ontario on the appointment of a facilitator whose scope of work will focus on identifying more evolved municipal service delivery models within the County of Simcoe that ensure effective and efficient support for future growth in the region, and that the province respectfully ensures that there is increased and meaningful communication directly with the County of Simcoe on all matters pertaining to the future of Simcoe County, and that this resolution be forwarded to the Honorable Steve Clark, Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing. I'll look for a mover. Councillor LaRue. Seconder, Deputy Mayor LaRose. Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. And 12D is a motion regarding the Georgian Bay Aspiring UNESCO Geopark. We have a motion that council supports and endorses the Georgian Bay Aspiring UNESCO Geopark with the current endeavors of becoming designated. And the council specifically supports the Georgian Bay Aspiring UNESCO Geopark with the following three items: endorsement of the soft launch in Penetanguishene this summer, agreement to coordinate with town administration on the program and communications, and a letter expressing the town's support for efforts to develop a UNESCO Global Geopark. And the council requests a future presentation from the Georgian Bay Aspiring Geopark after summer 2023 on the results of the soft launch in Penetanguishene. We'll look for a mover. Councillor Marchand, seconder, Councillor Duresh. Any further comments or questions from anyone? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. 13 is a presentation and consideration of the report from Committee of the Whole. For members of the public, after our council meeting, we have a Committee of the Whole, and we bring those forward for council ratification the next meeting. So they were ratifying decisions that were made at our May 10th meeting. So this is where we're going to bring forward our committee reports from our last meeting. So we'll start with our Recreation Community Services. I'm going to turn it to you, Councillor Waters, for presentation of your Recreation Community Services Community Report.
Thank you. Last month, on May 10th, the Recreation and Community Service section had 0 matters for consideration. There were, however, 2 consent agenda items which were received. The first of which was the Museum and Heritage Advisory Committee meetings minutes for March 9th, 2023. And the second was a memo from the Director of Recreation and Community Service regarding the Gateway Relocation Construction Tender Award. Are there any questions on those? No.
Thanks, Councillor Waters. So Councillor Waters, you'll move that committee report. I'll look for a seconder on that. Deputy Mayor LaRose. Any comments or questions regarding the Recreation Community Service Section Committee of the Whole report? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Next, we're going to look to Councillor Marchand for the Transportation Environmental Services Section Committee of the Whole report.
Thank you. We had 5 items that were brought forward for consideration. First was the implementation of the new utility alternative locate protocol. Second was the annual snow removal level of service policy update. The third was the minimum maintenance standard for roads policy update. Fourth was the disposal of surplus asset list and process for approval by council. And the fifth was the Wash Bay engineering plan and change and enhancements.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. You're moving those. I'll look for a seconder for the transportation environmental. Councillor Drush, any further comments or questions regarding the motion? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. And Councillor LaRue, if you can help us with the planning environment and planning and development section, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Your Worship. At Committee of the Whole meeting of May 10th, 23, section dealt with A, new open air burning bylaw, B, extended use of sidewalk bylaw revisions, C, approval in principle of the market gap study, and finally, notice of intention to designate Penetanguishene Angels.
Thank you, Councillor. Are you moving those?
I am.
Thank you. I'll look for a seconder. Deputy Mayor LaRose. Any further comments or questions? Call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Councillor DeRush, you can help us with the Finance and Corporate Services section committee of the whole report.
Certainly, thank you. Finance and Corporate Services had three consent agenda items. The 2023 first quarter financial summary and the 2022 financial indicator review were both received for information. Council also received a community-based strategic plan update 3. There were 3 matters for consideration. The first was the review of the municipal tax rate as it relates to municipal services. It was recommended that the town's municipal tax rate structure to pay equally for all municipal service remain in effect or status quo. Section also recommends the approval of the 2024 budget timeline. Finally, council received a staffing request from the clerk's department. It was recommended that the records management coordinator position job description be amended to the title of deputy clerk. On behalf of the section, I ask that council approve the recommendations as presented. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor DeRush. You're moving that. I'm looking for a seconder. Councillor LaRue. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Thank you very much. That was excellent. Move on to 14, the presentation consideration of report for special committees. We have none this evening. 15 is motions of which notices previously been given. We don't have any. Number 16 is notices of motion. Do any members of council have a notice of motion this evening? Seeing none. 17 is consideration of bylaws. Before I read the bylaws, any members of the council have any comments, questions regarding these bylaws? Okay. That bylaw 2023-27 bylaw to appoint Megan McClellan as the municipal law enforcement officer for the town of Penetanguishene. 2023-28 being a bylaw to authorize the entering into a license agreement with Argy Boat Cruises Limited for the use of town lands for a dockside attraction for special event operators. 2023-29 being a bylaw to authorize the extended use of sidewalks and boulevards, and to repeal bylaw 2020-42. And bylaw 2023-30 being a bylaw to amend the zoning bylaw 2022-17 at 1056 Fleur Avenue as amended of the corporation of the town of Penetanguishene, and that the council of the town of Penetanguishene introduced the following bylaws 2023-27, 2023-28, 2023-29, 2023-30, and that the bylaws be read a first time and deemed to be read a second and third time and carried. We'll look for a mover. Deputy Mayor LaRose, a seconder. Councillor Marshall. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Number 18 is our County Simcoe update. We are routinely providing updates. Mayor and Deputy Mayor sit at County Council, and Deputy Mayor is bringing forward an update of what's been discussed at County. Deputy Mayor LaRose.
Thank you, Your Worship. We've had 3 county meetings since our last council meeting, so there'll be a few highlights that some you've just heard about and some you haven't. So we passed a resolution to the province of Ontario, basically saying that we do not want Simcoe County to be broken up. It provides essential services for municipalities like ours that we obviously couldn't afford, like long-term care, ambulance, waste management, all of those things. So as the mayor just alluded to earlier with the resolution, we dealt with that at county, and that took quite a long time, good discussion, ended up a 23-9 vote. So it was worked out very well. We also had a presentation about the 16-bed expansion at Georgian Manor. It ran into some snags when it ran into some funding problems, but it looks like the Ministry of Long-Term Care has increased the funding. So that project will be moving forward and getting completed shortly. The mayor and I also sit on Simcoe County Housing Corporation, where we learned that we have approximately 4,200 housing units that's supported throughout the county. And we're lucky enough to have 107 of them in Penetang. So it helps out the people with their rent and gives them a place to live. Sad part of the whole presentation that we learned is that they have a waiting list of 4,800 people. So we're moving in the right direction, but we're probably not moving quite quick enough. On to yesterday's meeting, we were showing a planned edition of the Simcoe County Museum that's going to be possible to do thanks to a bequest from a man named Charlie Matthews, who donated $5 million to the Simcoe County Museum. So that was quite an exciting day, and it was nice to see the plans. Staff has taken the time to look at what Mr. Matthews liked about the museum and the sections that he wanted redone, and they're carrying forth with those plans. We also had a presentation from Georgian College, and it's just for everybody's wanting to know, they're planning on doing a $10 million expansion of their trade center. So that's kind of timely for that. And we spent all of yesterday afternoon working on a strategic plan. We're looking at short-term, medium-term, and long-term goals up to 10 years. So that's what we've been doing down there for the last 3 times.
Thank you for that update, Deputy Mayor LaRose. Moving on, as a question period from the media and public. Any members of public or media have any questions? What I'll get you to do, sir, if you don't mind, if you can just go to the, if you didn't go to the podium, just we want everyone to be able to participate.
Hello, everyone. My name is Hubert Taberge. As you can hear, I'm French. I work at the French radio station in Penetang-Guichín. So I'm looking for reports about stuff. And my only question was to have the coordinates of the people who did that presentation about the Green Park something. So English is my first language, was so hard to understand, but I think it's a nice subject. So maybe I would ask the CEO to give me like maybe the email of the person to try to do an interview. And if ever one of you, there's not a lot of people in the assistant, but if you have something to say or something that you think that we should talk on the radio, you can come, because even if it's in English, I always can do the work of translating the thing and put it in the news. I hope you understand. Sorry for the bad English. So merci beaucoup.
Thank you so much. And our CEO will be happy to provide that information. And thank you so much. Do any other members of media public have any questions? Seeing none, we're going to move on to number 20 is our announcements and inquiries. Do any members of council have any announcements or inquiries? Councillor DeRush.
Yes, I just wanted to let council know that in honor of National Indigenous History Month, the Culture Alliance will be holding a flag raising, and I believe it is next Thursday. I'm just looking for the June 20th. And it will be held at Tay, at the main office in Tay. It will start at 10 o'clock, and there will be a celebration. I believe I'm trying to here are the details. Sorry, bear with me. The event will start at 10 o'clock at the Township of Tay Municipal Offices at 450 Park Street. It will start with a smudge at 10 o'clock. And then there will be a prayer, an opening prayer from the Elder Patricia Moneg, opening drum song. There will also be land acknowledgement by Deputy Mayor Norris. So everyone is invited to join in, and it's expected to last until 11 o'clock. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Councillor Rush. And I think the CEO has that as well, and forward that off to all of council as well. Do any other members have any announcements or inquiries? I have a few. I'm going to direct to our CEO this evening. Jeff, I have 3 questions if you can help add some clarity for us. Number one, I've had some members of the community inquire what the status is of Thompson's Road West extension. My understanding was we were going to be completing that last year. So I'm just wondering if you can give us a bit of an update and what can we expect for Thompson's Road West. I'd also like to see if you can provide a little bit of clarity regarding our naturalization of our park, specifically Edward Street and Terrian Court. The questions I've received is regarding the process. I think some members of the public believe that council made a decision and we may not have followed process or notification, or, you know, we didn't follow the proper chain. So can you just go through that process? Like, what did we do about that naturalization? Was public informed? Did we let people know what we're doing? I just want to do it as an educational piece if you can. And my final one is about our procedure bylaw. We had a meeting a little while ago about that, and I'm just wondering if we can get an update when council could expect to see that in the future. If you could help us with that, I'd appreciate that.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm going to defer number one, Thompson's Road, to our Director of Public Works, and I'm going to defer number two, Naturalization Project, to our Director of Rec and Community Services. And I will take number three in an attempt to ensure that I'm not deferring all three. But I will defer number one and two if that's okay.
Yeah, you have the mic if you want to start, or you want to start with Brian.
I will, if I can, I'll ask Brian and Sherry to provide their updates.
Brian, Thompson's Road West.
Thanks, Your Worship. Yes, we have had discussions with our construction servicing contractor, Morgan Construction. And the latest schedule that we have with them is that they will be on site finishing the site servicing in July. And in preparation for the stormwater management works, storm sewer installation, road construction, and for paving this fall. That's the latest update I can give.
So if I'm hearing you, cars can drive on there sometime in the fall.
That's correct.
Thank you very much, Brian. I appreciate that. Sherry, I believe Jeff asked if you could tackle the second piece, which is the naturalization, if you don't mind.
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. So I think you're trying to get an understanding of the process of how we came to determining how those areas were selected for naturalization. Is that correct?
Yeah, and just what I'm hearing from members of the public is literally they woke up the next day and all of a sudden it's a wild field of flowers, and that no one was aware, and that council decided tonight and tomorrow it was different. And just what was the process we took to get to that resolution?
Sure. Thank you, Your Worship. So the Severn Sound Environmental Association secured a grant. So staff, in partnership with the Severn Sound Environmental Association, looked at all municipal lands to source 10,000 square meters of land that could be naturalized. So land that could be cease mowing activities, plant trees, and restore it to a natural environment. Penetanguishene does not have a lot of options for those to meet all of the criteria. It was quickly narrowed down to a few. It was reviewed at technical advisory committee, and then it was brought forward to council in a staff report in March. So there was two staff reports, one that was about becoming a B city and one was about the naturalization of the municipal lands. So I to committee of the whole first, and then it was ratified by council. As noted in the staff reports collectively about those two initiatives, one was that we do anticipate, and we know through other B city initiatives and naturalization products that there is some opposition that comes. There's always some that comes. So in an attempt to try and remedy that before the processes began, after council had made a decision, we sent out letters to 550 residents in the respective areas where that would be happening, so that they didn't think that we just are becoming lazy and not mowing our grass, that we explain the process, why it's happening. We also invited them to attend and participate in some of the planting activities and engagement.
Thank you, Sherry. Lees.
Thank you, Your Worship. With respect to the procedure bylaw, we are working on it. There was quite a few pieces to that quite a few pieces to that review. Some of which, as council will recall, came as direct recommendations from council, as well as I know that the clerk and staff have worked on other pieces over the years that we wanted to incorporate in to some recommendations to council. We are working on bringing something in the coming months to committee of the whole. We had hoped to have something by now, but we're not quite ready. And as it turns out, we had two members of staff, our clerk and our executive assistant, that recently participated in a professional development opportunity, which actually will assist with some of the procedural bylaw review. But certainly didn't want to bring something that was half baked, and look forward to bringing it to committee of the whole.
Thank you, Jeff and Brian and Sherry. Appreciate that follow-up. Moving on to our confirmation bylaw, that the confirmation bylaw 2023-31 be signed and sealed by the mayor and clerk. We'll look for mover, Councilor LaRue, seconder, Deputy Mayor LaRose. For the comments, call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. Number 22 is our adjournment by Councilor LaRue at 8:20. All in favor? And that is carried. We'll take a 5-minute recess. We'll come back at 8:25 for committee of the whole. Good evening, council. We're going to call our committee of the whole meeting to order for Wednesday, June the 14th, 2024 at 8:29 PM. I have a motion for the approval of the agenda. It's recommended the committee of the whole agenda for June the 14th, 2023 be approved as presented. Moved by Councilor Roux, second by Councilor Marchand. Further comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. Number 3 is our declaration of pecuniary interest, either now or at the time of. Do any members have a declaration of pecuniary interest? Seeing none. Number 4 is our presentations and delegations. We don't have any this evening. Number 5 is our council information package. Do any members have any items from the council information package they want to pull for further comment or questions? Seeing none, it's recommended the council information package having been given due consideration be received for information. That's for May 17th, 2023 and June the 7th, 2023. A mover, Councilor Marchand, seconder, Councilor DeRush. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. 6A is our transportation environmental services section, and I'm going to turn the chair over to you, Councilor Marchand.
Great, thank you very much. We'll start with item A under consent agenda. It's recommended that the following consent agenda items have been given due consideration be received for information. The first one is the item 1 is drinking water quality management standard interim audit report for the period of March 17th, 2022 to April 15th, 2023. And can I get someone to move that? Deputy LaRose, seconded, Deputy DeRush, Councilor DeRush, excuse me. Any questions with regards to that item? Seeing none, we'll vote. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. The second item is the Midland Penetanguishene Transit Rider quarterly update for Q1 2023, RDS 2023-10. That is the quarterly report. And is there any questions with regards to that report? Sorry, can I have a mover? Oh, sorry. Okay. So I'm good. They covered everything there. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm anxious for that ball hockey game, apparently. Sorry. Okay, we're moving on to B, matters for consideration. The first item is proposed amendment to the traffic parking bylaw 2022-02 and overnight parking in municipal parking lots. ENG 2023-09. It's recommended that council approve the proposed amendments to the traffic parking bylaw as outlined within the staff report, and that the present traffic parking bylaw be repealed and replaced, and that staff be directed to bring forward the new bylaw for council approval. This particular report, sorry, do I have to have a first? I can go through the report first, right? So just some highlights from that report. The bylaw is reviewed on an annual basis with the road supervisor and our bylaw department to ensure regular review and timely review. The process changes have been posted on the town website and on social media. The report has also been shared with our police services board during the most recent June meeting for any feedback, and there was no concerns presented and brought forward at that time. It was also noted that overnight parking was already addressed in our 2022 bylaw, which was an item that had been also brought forward by the mayor from that perspective. Is there anything more that you'd like to add, Brian, from that perspective from the report?
No, that was a good summary, Madam Chair. No further comments.
Thank you. And could I have a mover for the report, please? Deputy Rose, seconder, Councilor DeRush. Any questions from council? Your worship.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The question's for Brian. Brian, regarding section 38.1, the no parking on Robert Street West. I think I brought that up at the police services board last week about the small little change. I'm just wondering if that's reflected or if it can be reflected when it comes forward for the future bylaw.
Sorry, through you, Madam Chair, to his worship. Yes, that has been noted in the report, and we can make that minor change to extend that. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Looking to a vote. All those in favor? Motion carried. Thank you. The next item is the proposed 5-year stormwater prevention maintenance plan, RDS 2023-04. It's recommended that the proposed 5-year stormwater prevention maintenance plan be approved in principle and brought forward for consideration during the 2024 budget process. In the report, this really is formalizing the stormwater prevention maintenance plan for both of which you'll have noted in the report has some capital and also some operating requirements over the next 5 years. This is really putting some formalized reporting and a plan in place for the town of Penetanguishene. There's a full financial summary on page 23 that outlines capital and operation expenditures over the next 5 years. However, as we review our capital and budgeting process, that would be further reviewed and dealt with. Any questions with regards to that report at this time? Seeing none, can I have a mover? Councillor Waters, second. Councillor Leroux. All those in favor? Motion carried. Okay, C, referral for upcoming agenda to staff. The referral items at the Transportation Environmental Services section endorse the following additions and existing referrals to the upcoming agendas and staff. So some future items, stormwater management best practice and engineering standards that will be moved. It's been updated to reflect that it's moved to Q4 of this year. The traffic calming measures on roads and sidewalks with priority of streets with no sidewalks. This was completed and addressed as it related to the bylaw that was, or the staff presentation this evening. So this has been addressed. The County of Simcoe Transit Connection service improvement. This is on track to be reported back in Q4. I know that there were some recent meetings with Transit and Council with committee recently and with the town. So there will have some further updates on that. And then review of the highway and parking bylaw. This item can be removed because this was addressed this evening as part of that bylaw amendment as well. Any questions with that or any items to be added? Your worship.
Madam Chair, you mentioned the second item, traffic calming. You mentioned that was covered tonight. I don't think it was. So can we just get clarity on that piece? And then I have another question following that.
Thank you through you, Madam Chair, to His Worship. Yes, that is true. Your Worship, the second item wasn't covered tonight. I believe it was the last item, the review of the traffic and parking bylaw, which I believe can be reviewed unless there's other further questions related to that item. And we are looking at doing the traffic calming measures in conjunction with a policy that we're actually already currently working on, or when the item was the referral item was added to the agenda, which we're looking to bring forward in Q3. It's just taking a little longer for us to draft that. And we're looking at bringing that forward as part of Q3 this year.
Thank you for correcting me on that. Thank you. Any other questions or anything to be added? Okay, seeing none. So any questions from the media? Oh, sorry. Yes, Brian.
Sorry, maybe this is a question to the clerk, but I wasn't sure if there was a motion to remove the review of the parking and traffic was needed, or the process involved with that.
I think if council can agree that that's something that is removed, I would take that as a motion.
We're good to remove that.
I just think backwards. We haven't done it till it's been ratified by council. Like the last little bit, we've waited until council ratifies and then we do it the following.
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm good with that. Does that clarifies, Brian?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Great, thank you. D, question period from media and the public. Does anyone have any questions from the public or with regards to the section?
Sorry, Madam Chair, we do need the mover and seconder just for it to remain essentially as it is.
Sorry. Can I get a mover for the referral of upcoming items? Councillor DeRush, seconded by Councillor Waters. All those in favor? That motion is carried. Thank you. And no questions from the public or the media. And back to you.
Thank you, Councillor Mersha. We move on to 7B is our Recreation and Community Services section. I'm going to turn it over to you, Councillor Waters.
Thank you. For the Recreation and Community Service, we start with our consent agenda. Tonight we have 3 items, and the motion reads that the following consent agenda agenda items having been given due consideration be received for information. The first we have is the Museum and Heritage Advisory Committee meeting minutes from April 13th, 2023. Second, we have the 75th Winterama summary, RCS 2023-14. And third, we have the tennis and pickleball court booking, RCS 2023-16. I guess I'll ask for a mover to accept those, and we have our deputy mayor, and seconded by Councillor DeRush. And are there any comments or questions? And we'll ask our mayor to give us a question.
I think you have to grab your mic. Thank you, Mr. Chair. My questions regarding the second item, 75th Winterama summary. I guess to you, Jeff, unless you're going to move that to Sherry. My questions regarding the summary report. Thank you for that. I'm wondering if there was a debrief with community partners on the Winterama and what the community partners thoughts, perceptions, ideas, and suggestions would be as a move forward. And just some general thoughts from that debrief. If you could share that, I appreciate that.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll ask our Director of Rec to kick it off, and then I'll fill in any gaps if there are any, but I'm confident she'll probably cover everything off.
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair, to His Worship. Staff do a debrief as to the operations and the overall success of the event. Previous to meeting, however, our recreation and events coordinator, who's here in attendance this evening, Marla, for those who don't know, reaches out to all of our community partners who play a key role in making the event happen, and gets feedback, good and bad, to bring forward to that staff debrief. I did actually have some partners reach out to me this year just to say what a great success the event was. And Marla, of course, would not include it in her own report, but to toot her own horn, but people were very complimentary of her efforts and engagement initiatives that were tried. So that is essentially what sort of debrief occurs after Winterama.
I just want to comment. The report was really exceptionally well done. There was lots of great details, and I was really blown away that the amount of buttons that we sell. It was really great to see, and I know it's not an easy thing to patrol, but the fact that we sold that many, and having participated and been there this year, you know, it's hard because it's a weather permitting for lots of different things, but the group really rallied, and the event the entire weekend was really positive, and really well-written report, and really excited because it really helps with some other things that are being brought forth tonight. So I think that really helps really solidify things as well. So good work to everyone and to the volunteers, and for getting feedback, good and bad. Not always easy, but it's, you know, an opportunity to learn. But again, good job on the button sales. That really impressed me. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess we need a mover to accept this. We have that? Yeah. Then we'll do a vote. All in favor? And that passes. So we move on to matters for consideration. Tonight we have two matters for consideration. First, we have the Museum Activities Report 2022 from April 13th, 2023, with the recommended action that the 2023 Museum Activity Report for the operations of the Penetanguishene Centennial Museum and Archives be approved as presented in attachment 1. Second, we have the 75th Winterama Growth, RCS 2023-13, and the recommended action there is that staff.
Councillor Waters?
Yes.
We just got to do them separate. So B1 museum activities, that's a separate motion. We'll just call that separately. And just small clerical thing. It was a 2022 museum activity, so we'll just do that separate.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I'm.
Want me to help?
Sure.
So B1 is our museum activities report 2022. It's recommended the 2022 museum activities report for operations of Penetanguishene Centennial Museum be approved as presented. A mover? Councilor Marshall, seconder. Deputy Mayor LaRose, comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. And Deputy Mayor, you want the chair? You good, Councilor Waters? You want me to continue? Number 2 is our Winterama growth. We have a report before us tonight regarding RCS 2023-13. It's recommended that staff return to committee of the whole during the 2024 operating budget process with recommendations on financial implications for separating the role of recreation events coordinator into 2 respective full-time roles, one for recreation, one for events, and that $20,000 increase to the Winterama 2024 operating budget be brought forward during the 2024 budget process. I'll look for a mover. Councilor DeRush, seconder, Councilor Waters. Comments or questions with this? Deputy Mayor LaRose.
Thank you, Your Worship. We dealt with this on Monday at our section, and as I explained to our director, then I have a bit of a problem with that. That would adding an extra $150,000 to our budget equals basically a 1% tax increase, and I don't really know if I'm comfortable having a 1% tax increase just for Winterama. I thought Winterama was done extremely well this year. The weather played nice. Everybody was there. As it was alluded to earlier, it was a wonderful event. And at this point, I wouldn't be able to support a $150,000 extra for that.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Any further comments or questions? Councilor DeRush.
Yes, thank you very much. When I read this report, I know that it's titled Winterama Growth, but I believe that the report speaks to much more than just Winterama growth. It speaks to basically the demands that continue to come forward in the world of recreation, and it also points to the discussions that we of council have had since we began our terms. We've talked about investigating communities in bloom. We've talked about possibly a Champlain cultural event. This evening, we talked about a Penetanguishene Day. We talked about, we've got it on, I think, on one of the to-do list is, let's look at a grant writer. I know that a couple of years ago, council approved a age-friendly community plan that has some awesome recommendations on increasing senior services. And I think that the town's very motivated to get to deal with those senior services. But again, we have nowhere to go when it comes to capacity. We also recently received a market gap analysis that talked about engaging the business community, engaging our community to bring things alive, to freshen it up. And again, we have no depth in the department. So I think this speaks to much more of a broader vision. And I know that Winterama certainly was a wonderful event, but when it comes to delivering those things, they are monsters, and they wear staff down they wear staff down. But in the world of recreation, you can't stop. You've got recreation programs, you've got senior services, you've got, pickleball, you've got all that stuff going at you. So, I believe that as we progress, as we grow as a town, folks are looking for more depth in their services and more specialized things like senior services, youth services. They also are looking for volunteer management. We're also looking for that, where we want to engage our volunteers, but in our world, the reality is that you can't just have people coming off the street and you just, it's not a wise thing. You need to manage those volunteers. You need to recognize them. You need to support them. So again, I think this goes by far beyond the Winterama growth. I think it's a vision that I think as council, we've spoken about some of the stuff we want to see in the future. And I think if we want to be responsible, we need to box and thinking about how we could, when we break up this position, how we can look at having these two positions address some of these challenges that I've listed. Thank you.
Any further comments or questions? Councillor Marshall.
I would just echo the comments that were made by Councillor DeRush. And I think just one of the other things I would add is I shared about being part of the Trails Committee meeting today and having a resource that is only with us until the end of September that had no problem stepping in to be helped at the wharf because we didn't have staff at the wharf. And so we wanted to make sure that we could get the boaters in place and we could have that service. And so we're pulling from all different directions. And I don't disagree. This isn't just about one event. This is about multiple events. And, I think CAO Lee's also talked about, we're at the point where we will hopefully see, what our strategic plan looks like. And part of that, having been actively engaged with the community in those sessions, we talked about other big events and activities. And this is really, this ties in, it takes people to do these things and to run them. And so I'm very much in support. And I do think that the title of the report was slightly, is deceiving, that this isn't just about Winterama.
Thank you, Councillor Marshall. Further comments or questions? Councillor Waters.
In regards to the Winterama, I'd like to point out that years ago, Councillor LaRue was involved with the Chamber of Commerce. And at that time, the Winterama was an excellent event, all done completely with volunteers. And I kind of think that we should be looking at utilizing other resources beyond the town for town events. So obviously with some kind of guidance from the town, but the bulk of the work being done outside.
Thank you, Councillor Waters. COLEs, Councillor DeRush, Councillor Marshall mentioned, I would agree with them that it's titled Winterama Growth. It doesn't, when you read the meat of the report, it's not really about Winterama Growth. Can you just speak to some of the comments that we heard tonight? Like, this isn't directly about Winterama, it's about some of the resource issues and challenges that Councillor DeRush brought up and echoed by Councillor Marshall. Can you just add some clarity to that? Like, in theory, we're not adding one FTE for Winterama.
Yeah, through your worship, I think it's an excellent point, and my apologies. I'll wear this, that the subject probably could have been a little bit more articulate. But I think the nail has been hit square on the head, that this report is about much more than just Winterama growth. There's 8 or 10 things that Councillor DeRush listed off, which I through the report, I haven't done a great job before being published at articulating those in a great deal of depth. But certainly this is about much more than Winterama growth. We do touch on it a little bit in the report, that, the position, that we're in right now as an organization is really at capacity, and to support Winterama growth, which is one of many faucets we're trying to accomplish, that we do believe we need additional resources. The one thing I would say is, the hope from staff's perspective and from my perspective is that, we have an opportunity to return at budget as we do every year with full comprehensive plans around the staffing, which, our vision is to get into much more depth and really paint a better picture for council or committee of the whole as we go through the budget process. So tonight, we're not asking council to slam dunk, this is approved, we're going to go higher tomorrow. We're asking council to give us some support to come back to the budget process with a comprehensive business plan, as we do every year during budget, to support what we're asking for, and also articulate to council what it might take to grow Winterama, which is really what the referral item was about. But there's many more aspects to this that we feel we can accomplish and be of tremendous benefit to the community from a rec and community services perspective.
Thank you, COLEs. Further comments or questions on this motion? I have a mover and a second. We'll call for the vote. All in favor? And opposed? And that is carried. C is referral items. Do any members of council have any additions or revisions to any of the referral items before us? Seeing none, that the Recreation Community Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. A mover, Councillor Marshall, seconder, Councillor DeRush. All in favor? And opposed? That is carried. D is our question period from the medium public. Do any members of the public have any comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll move on to section 8C, our planning and community development services section. Councillor LaRue.
Thank you, your worship. On the consent agenda, the recommended action is the following consent agenda items having been given due consideration be received for information. 1, Committee of Adjustment meetings. 2, Economic Advisory Committee minutes. And 3, Municipal Law Enforcement Officer Monthly Activity. Does anyone have any questions, concerns with any of these items? None. Mover, Councillor DeRush, seconder, Councillor Waters, all in favor? Thank you. Moving on to matters for consideration. 1, a plan of subdivision application. 10 sub 2021-01 123 Robert Street East, owner 20063-316 Ontario Inc. PL 2023-30. The recommended action is that the draft plan of subdivision prepared by Celeste Phillips Planning Inc. and signed by Rudy Mack OLS dated June 27, 2022, respecting application file number PIN sub 21-01 for the property at 123 Robert Street East be approved in keeping with staff report PL 2023-30, and that the draft plan conditions for plan of subdivision application file number PIN sub 2021-01 for the property at 123 Robert Street East be approved in keeping with staff report PL 2023-30. And perhaps our planner could enlighten us a bit on this matter before we go to questions or concerns. Andrea, please.
Yes, thank you very much, Councilor LaRue, through you to council. So this application was submitted to the town in 2021 and went through the process of public meeting and consideration by council. Ultimately, the application was appealed. The zoning, one part of the application, the zoning bylaw component was appealed, and this then went through the tribunal process or the court process at the Ontario Land Tribunal, in which that the decision was made in March 2nd, 2023 on the zoning, which basically put the zoning in effect for the property for townhouse zoning. And so following that decision by the tribunal, a decision needs to be made on the subdivision application. And so through March and April, we've been working with the developer and his agent who are here tonight, who can also answer any questions, I'm sure, to finalize the draft plan conditions that would accompany the approval should council grant it. The draft plan conditions are standard documents that municipalities use to require certain interests to be built or constructed or other things to be met before the developer can register the plan of subdivision. So we've been working with them on that, and we have a draft set of conditions for approval tonight. I hope that answers any other questions. I know it's probably a little bit complicated, but I'd be happy to try and clarify anything.
Thank you, Andrea. Members of council, any questions, concerns? Councillor LaRose.
Thank you, Councillor. Andrea, block 10, the triangular piece at the corner. I just can't get it to blow up enough to see exactly what's going on in that triangle. So if you could explain that, that would be great.
Thank you. Through you, Councilor LaRue, to Deputy Mayor LaRose. So block 10 on the draft plan of subdivision is to be dedicated to the municipality for future needs. So it is in an open space zone as well through the zoning bylaw. So that block 10 would be coming to the town for future discussion related to that intersection.
Further questions, concerns? There being no mover and a seconder, Councillor Marchand and Councillor DeRush, all in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to 2 consent agreement, 1230 Sandy Bay Road, PL 2023-32. The recommended action that a bylaw be passed to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the consent agreement for execution concerning 1230 Sandy Bay Road, PL 2023-32 consent amendment 1230 Sandy Bay Road. As members of council will see, there has been a
a map indicating these properties. And I know here at section with discussions with our planner that we're probably in the very near future going to be seeing more requests for development along Sandy Bay Road and Gilwood Park Road. So to me, this one is straightforward. Do any members of council have any questions or concerns? There being none, a mover and a seconder, Deputy Mayor and Councillor Waters, all in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. Moving on to 3, which is the business recognition policy. And the recommended action is that the updated business recognition policy be approved to provide a procedure for the celebration of new and long-standing business and the creation of local business database. Madam Chair, would you comment as well?
Certainly. Thank you very much, Councillor LaRue. So this is a policy that the municipality has had and to guide us in celebration of businesses in the town. It was an action that was identified both in the business retention expansion study as well as our most recent market gap study, that we take a look at that policy and make sure it's appropriate and is focusing on what we want it to focus on in celebration of our new or longstanding businesses. So the policy was reviewed by the Economic Advisory Committee, who supported it coming to council in its form, and that it's being proposed tonight for council's consideration.
Questions, concerns? None. Mover and a seconder, Councillor DeRush and Mayor Watson, all in favor. And that is carried. On to the municipally initiated zoning bylaw amendment, multiple dwelling units in the downtown and waterfront zone, PL 2023-34. The recommended action is that council of the town of Penetanguishene endorses an amendment to zoning bylaw 2022-17 regarding commercial floor space on the main floor within the downtown and waterfront DW zone, and that notice of a complete application and public meeting be given in accordance with the Planning Act. Questions or concerns on this matter? Councillor Marchand?
It's just a question. And I appreciate this is being brought forward because certainly part of the Main Street study and the gap analysis, this was certainly something that was brought forward. My only question would existing storefront that has already been converted to residential, is that grandfathered? Is that how that would work? And this would be then going forward, or would that be reconsidered if it was sold? That piece I just didn't quite understand.
Madam Chair, you would?
Yeah, thank you very much, Councillor LaRue, through you to Councillor Marchand. So that is exactly how a property becomes a legal non-conforming use. So it's an existing use that's legal now, and when we change the bylaw, as long as it continues to exist, it's legal. So it's only when it stops being used for that purpose that it loses that legal non-conforming status. So this won't impact any existing multiple dwelling units in the downtown on waterfront zone. It will only apply to new applications for building permits once a bylaw amendment is passed.
Further questions, concerns? There being none. Move Mayor Rawson, second Councillor DeRush, all in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. We move on to referrals to upcoming agenda staff referral that the Planning Community Development Services section endorsed the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agenda and staff and the municipal accommodation tax map, vacant commercial property options, reviewing of open air burning bylaw, ATV ORV pilot project, updated bylaw enforcement on barrier-free parking spaces and Beaulieu Drive road options. Do we have any that would be added or removed? Councillor DeRush.
I believe we can remove the review of the open air burning bylaw. I believe we dealt with that last meeting.
I think so. I agree. Yes. Okay. So that one can be removed. And any other ones to be dealt with? No further ones to be added or removed. So a mover and a seconder, our Deputy Mayor LaRose and Councillor Marchand, all in favor. And that is carried. Thank you. Move on to question period from media and public. There being none, back to you, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor LaRue. Moving on to 9D is our Finance and Corporate Services section. Turn the chair over to Councillor DeRush.
Thank you very much. The Finance and Corporate Services has two consent agenda items today. The first is the Penetanguishene Public Library Board Minutes of April 24th, 2023. And the second is the Police Services Board Minutes of March 2nd, 2023 and April 26th, 2023. The recommended action is that the following consent agenda items, having been given due consideration, be received for information. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? We have a mover, Deputy Mayor LaRose, seconded by Councillor. Boy, these are real brain twisters, right? Councillor Marshaw. What? Do we have any comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. The matters for consideration today, we have, I believe, three. The first is the 2024 budget guidelines, Finance Report 2023-18. The recommended action is that the 2024 budget guidelines be approved as presented, and that staff be directed to prepare the first draft of the town's 2024 budget in accordance with the town's budget procedure policy, 2024 budget timeline, and the 2024 budget guidelines. And finally, that the first draft of the 2024 budget with no greater than a 6% budget increase, 3% net MPI, and up to 3% for program and service level changes be presented to council for consideration. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Leroux, seconded by Mayor Rawson. Open the floor for questions and comments. Yes, Mayor Rawson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question's for the CEO. Tonight, in essence, we're going to provide a threshold, an amount where Jeff and the staff are going to prepare a budget at a certain amount. My question to our CEO is, and we'll use 6% as our beginning discussion. The hard thing I have with this is, how do we differentiate the priority items and capital versus operations? So as example, Councillor Drush tonight talked about the Winterama report was more than just Winterama, it was more staff resources to help with things like volunteer. And we all discussed that and said it was for more than just Winterama growth. How do we tonight take this 6% and then apply it to the priorities? So as an example, during last budget cycle, I think Brian may have said, or members of council may have said, is our road clearing up to standard what we wanted for winter road operations? And I believe a lot of members felt that that was a priority. We've made mentions about some capital infrastructure, roads and water and the like as a priority. So I don't understand tonight with this motion, how we take this 3 and 3, the 6, and we apply it. Can you help me understand how you would take tonight and then use all of our wishes to make that happen? That's the only thing I'm not clear on.
Through you, Madam Chair, to Mayor Rawson, I'm going to ask our Director of Finance to take a stab at this. There is some stuff in the report that does talk a little bit about the capital allocation, but I can understand that perhaps a little additional context may help. So if I can, through you, Madam Chair, ask our Director of Finance to provide some clarity to the question, and then I'm happy to fill in as or if necessary.
Certainly, through you, Madam Chair, to Mayor Rawson. So in terms of the calculation of the net municipal price index of 3%, we are also, obviously, it's identifying the report. Staff are also looking for support and approval to proceed with an additional 3% for council's consideration during the 2024 budget process. And that 3% being for program and service level changes, which we've heard a lot talked about this evening already, as well as budget impacts within reports that we've talked about this evening. So in the report, it does identify, and until staff gets together to prepare the first draft, we can't definitively say how much is for operating and how much is for capital. But what we do know already, and some of it is in the report and some of it I have heard this evening in terms of Mayor Ross, and you're just looking for clarification on how much is included, how much of the 6% is allocated to operating versus capital. That's how it's going to be presented to council for consideration through the 2024 budget process. So currently in the net municipal price index of 3%, there is on, sorry, I don't have a page number, but under the financial implications of this report, there is 0.5% related to direct capital budget increases as per some of the budget guidelines and strategies that are also in the report. We also heard that the stormwater management 5-year plan is going to have budget impacts, and approximately 1% of that is going to be capital in 2024. So again, we can't definitively say that there's only 1.5% that's capital related. That's all I know of as of right now. But certainly as staff get together to do the first draft, we'll be able to differentiate, put those budget items and new budget items related service level impacts in front of council for consideration so that you can debate your priorities.
Sure, go ahead, Mayor Ross. Jeff, okay, we'll let CEO speak first and then we'll get back to you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sorry to complicate things. I just wanted to add the piece that I would add is we've talked a lot about our strategic plan. Our strategic plan, we're looking to have ratified by council by the end of summer. Timing will work pretty nicely in terms of being aligned with our 2024 budget and 10-year capital plan. So there will be, that's going to be a guiding document for us as we at a senior team put a lot of time and effort with our frontline staff in devising that budget. So it doesn't directly relate to the question that Mayor Rosson's asked, but it does relate indirectly because there will be impacts that come as a result of the strat plan that we're going to have to incorporate into the 2024 and beyond budget. So I just wanted to add that piece. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Mayor Rosson.
Thank you. And I appreciate the comments, Jeff and Carrie. I guess my only question, and I know this is a hard balancing act that you're going to go through the budget process as staff, and we've identified a bunch of asks and wants. If I echoed Deputy Mayor's comment a while ago, I heard a concern that if one full-time equivalent was just going to be allocated to Winnorama per se, I'm hearing him say the $100,000 was a lot. So you got a lot to juggle with that. From my lens, I just hope that you and staff work extra hard on the capital lens, because I've heard a lot from the community about the capital, and I think sometimes we don't give it that same attention. I just, if we can just look at that, because we're talking about 51 Dunlop, we got to start building a reserve for that. Like there's a lot of competing interests. I just really want to emphasize capital if we can, please. That's my comment.
Thank you for those comments. Do we have any other questions or comments from anyone? Yes, Deputy Mayor Rosson and then Councillor Marsha.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I first looked at this report and we dealt with it Monday at section, I found it absolutely preposterous that we would even consider this much of an increase. I look back at the table that was provided to us tonight. Our average increase is 1.65%. And we're going to go to the mat right now and say 6. So you're looking at, in my estimation, approximately a $500 a year increase to everybody's taxes. So all the things that were said tonight, we need this, we need that. They're all good, great ideas, but it's like anything. I want a new Lamborghini, but I can only afford my pickup truck. We're having our sights set on having absolutely everything that we want and a whole bunch of good and great and wonderful things. But who's going to be able to afford a $500 a year increase forever on top of what we're already paying? So to me, we're way out. Usually we set this at 2, maybe 3%. So if you look on the table, The average, we had a negative 1 year, 3.1, 2.7, 1.9, a whole bunch. So Carrie's laid it out. So the average is 1.65 over the last 10 years. And we want to start at 6. We'll be here at budget forever. I don't know why we don't look at it from a different point of view. We're not looking forward from anything from staff, is not bringing anything forward to up our revenues. We're just sitting here saying, hey, you know what? We want to do all these cool and neat and wonderful things, and they are, and all we're going to do is raise taxes. Just pure and simple, just an easy way out. We need to take a comprehensive look at what we provide and where we can save some money so that we can move forward with these initiatives and not just say to the average taxpayer, here's a $500 a year increase and we'll move on. So I am absolutely not in favor of starting this process at 6%.
Okay, and we'll have our Director of Finance speak. I believe it's probably about the tax increase that was noted.
Thank you, through you, Madam Chair. I would just like to clarify Councillor LaRose's comments about, or sorry, Deputy Mayor LaRose's comments. We did discuss the potential tax impact of such a budget increase, but it is a budget increase. It's not the net tax impact that residents would see, but it certainly is not $500. And we did discuss the 2023 taxation impact on an overall 3.5% tax impact for the 2023 budget, based on an average assessed home of about, let's say, $250,000. It would be approximately $75 or $80 impact on the average homeowner.
Well,
So
mine's
even
set
a 6%
25.
budget increase would not result in $500. And I just wanted to clarify that.
So our last
I'm
year.
sorry. Deputy Mayor, we'll go to Council Marchand, then we'll come back to you.
No, we wouldn't.
Thank you. I think one of the pieces when we talk about priorities, I think is a piece that, going through the budget process right from the beginning as a new member of council, I think is important. And the fact that we are doing the strategic planning has a significant tie to how we approach the budget process and how we look at priorities. We had discussed at one of the section meetings just with regards to, wanting to look at just even, a formalized policy and just the process and whether that's a priority this year or is that a 5-year out, because there's a lot of things that you're right. We all want the Lamborghini, but maybe this year it's the Pinto, and then we gradually save up to get to that point. So that's all part of the planning process. My initial thought as well, the 6% seemed so different considering I came in as a newly elected council member and it was a 2% that the staff was asked. And I felt that was completely ridiculous and that it was not a realistic number to work towards. And I think, we have to start somewhere. We all know that the cost of everything has increased exponentially. I think in my section, I brought forward increases in proposed projects at least twice, since I've been in this role. And, when I look at the overall tax increase, I feel strongly this is not a number to brag about when we do years of 0 and these, less than 1%. It has such a long-term impact on municipalities, and we run extremely lean. And sometimes there's those pieces about being bold, but there isn't perhaps that direct revenue line because this isn't a business, but it's about how do we encourage and bring businesses to this area, and how do we have events? How do we bring families and sustain and keep them here and be vibrant contributor financially and in all ways in our communities when they come to choose to live in Penetanguishene, because we do have so much to offer. So I do appreciate the scope and the depth of the report. And I think at the end of the day, when we came to the numbers that we did in the end, we're starting here. This is not, we're agreeing, this is where we're coming to. So I think that was just a piece that I wanted to add.
Thank you. Councillor Marchand, Deputy Mayor LaRose, did you want to provide a comment?
Just one quick comment. Last year, we were just over 3%. My own personal taxes went up $267. So if you double that, it's 500 and change. I rounded it off at 500.
Thank you for those comments. Do we have any? Yes, Councillor LaRue.
Thank you, Madam Chair. On this full report, I take it as a fact that we're giving staff guidelines to move forward and bring back to council. In the end, final decision is going to be made here. And whether that's going to be 6%, 3%, 4% will happen here. And I think we're going to work it out. And so I think that we owe it to staff to let them do the first round and come forward to us. There's nothing in here that says it's going to be 6% or have to be 6%. So let's let them play ball.
Thank you for those comments. Any other comments from anyone? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. The next piece of business is to establish and regulate a fire department bylaw, FES 2023-01. The recommended action is that the updates and amendments included within the report relating to to establish and regulate a fire department bylaw be approved. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor LaRose, seconded by Councillor LaRue. I will open the floor for any questions or comments. Did you want to hear from the fire chief about this bylaw? No? Any questions or comments? Councillor Marchand.
I would just say that it's good to see that this bylaw has been reviewed and revisited and that the work has been done to ensure that we're in compliance. Certainly, there's a lot of legislative compliances that come within this particular bylaw and for the fire department. So kudos to you, Fire Chief, for tackling this within your first few months with us. And it's great to see that it's been brought up to date and that it's a plan that is certainly, you could tell there was lots of work that went into it. So I just wanted to comment on that.
Thank you. Other comments or questions? Seeing none, we'll go to the vote. All in favor? Opposed? The motion is carried. Our final item is the Salary Administration Policy, HR 2023-01. The recommended action is that the updates and amendments related to the comparator group and periodic market reviews included within the report relating to Salary Administration Policy 008/2019 be approved. Do I have a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Councillor Marchand, seconded by Councillor LaRue. The floor is open for questions or comments. Yes, Mayor Rawson.
Thank you. I have a concern with, I'm trying to find the number. I guess it's item E of the policy. I'll turn it to the CEO if he can comment, but I get market value. I get all the current conditions. I get all that. E changes our market review from salary ranges from what we've been doing now for 3 to 5 years to we'll conduct periodic market reviews, which sounds to me like as needed. I don't know if we need to do that in the policy per se. I would argue with the existing policy the way it was, and this is the question, CEO, you could come to council anytime and say market conditions are out of whack and I need to do this today. Like you have that ability to do that. Say, we don't need to change this policy to give you that ability. I'm concerned changing this policy today because market conditions can change in 5 years and 10 years. I don't know why we need to make this change here today. So I guess my question to you is, you have that ability to do that, to come back in 13 months and say, we need to do this. Why do we need to make this policy change here and now?
Through you, Madam Chair, to Mayor Rawson, this was a recommendation or a suggestion that was made from the third party that we've engaged on doing our market review. This is, I think, trending more towards being a best practice in terms of not tying yourself to being a 3 to 5 year, for example, review. That said, our director of HR and I have had lots of discussion about this project, and certainly Christine's been very engaged and very involved. We're not all that passionate, to be blunt, with committee about this particular change. We think it gives us a little bit more flexibility, but also at the end of the day, if committee's not comfortable with that and would rather keep the policy as is, we're fine with that. We just saw this as an opportunity based on a recommendation that came from a third party. There is a provision in the policy on page 2 that does give me the flexibility on a position by position basis, if we're having challenges, to within a threshold to make changes. So, long-winded way of me saying that if committee's not comfortable with this particular piece, the opportunity still exists in 2 years or 3 years, for example, if we find that market conditions are such that we need to go out sooner than later, that we would have an avenue to come through committee or council if we needed money, for example, to accomplish the same result. So it really, at the end of the day, is in committee's hands.
Yes, Deputy Mayor, Mayor Rawson.
Thank you. I have a real concern with this, and I appreciate your comments, Elise. What I heard you say was, when you said third party, was the consultant we pay to do this for us wants us to do it more often, so then we can engage them and pay them to do a review for more. That's what I hear. And I think if you have that toolbox to do that, we don't need to change the policy. I got a concern with that. If you have the ability to do what you need to do, but I'm opposed changing that piece of policy. So I don't know, Madam Chair, if you want me to move an amendment, or if you want to, how you want to do that from that.
Let me ask the Director of HR to maybe speak to this, and then we'll entertain an amendment if need be.
Thank you for Madam Chair to Mayor Rawson. So as Jeff Lees had stated, it doesn't necessarily mean to your point that we would be doing it more frequently. It's a matter of being nimble and being able to make the changes necessary when required. We want to make sure that we compensate our staff appropriately, look at the emerging trends in the area, and make sure that we're competitive to our competitors in the geographical areas.
Thank you for those comments. Deputy Councillor Marchand, did you have a comment?
I do have a comment, and then just also one additional question. The way I read that is really for, I think this is just the changing landscape of human resources. And I don't read it that we would go out to a third-party consultant, but it would give this group and staff the ability to do a local, even just benchmark in terms of what they're seeing with a position or something from that perspective, as opposed to waiting to a set timeline to actually go out to review. Because, I would not even like entertain a 5-year, 3-year would absolutely be the minimum. That's too big of a threshold with the way the landscape is from an HR perspective. But maybe that's just clarity that it's not about, because I do respect that you engage a third party, and often it's quite cleaner to use a third party sometimes when it comes to presenting compensation from that perspective. So that's not how I read it. The one question I did have, I was happy to see that the report looked at pay equity, and just wanted to get a sense of where you are with compliance, and is this anything that you're concerned about in terms of where we may sit from a pay equity perspective?
Thank you. So through you, Madam Chair, to Councillor Marchand. Yes, so the last time that we went through and looked at our pay equity situation, there were no issues and no concerns. So as we stand right now, we do feel we're in compliance, but again, it needs a review. The last time that we did a complete review was using data from 2018. So it's been quite some time, and we just need to make sure, even though we don't think we have any issues, to confirm that.
Okay, we'll circle back to our mayor. Mayor Rawson, did you want to put an amendment on the floor?
I would, but I'll just turn to the CEO. I heard him say we're not passionate about it and we're okay. I don't know if operationally he's able to do it. If he wants amendment, I'll leave it to you. I'm happy to move an amendment, but I'll leave it to you, Madam Chair, and see how you want to procedurally do this.
Well, I think that staff presented this as their preference to how they want this policy to read. So I believe that we do have a motion on the floor, but if you want to have this removed and go back to the wording prior to this, then I think that you should do that and we'll go from there.
Happy to. I'll move an amendment to the motion that item E of the policy remains status quo.
And so we have a mover, our Mayor Rawson will move it. Do we have a seconder? Okay, so we have a seconder. So we'll vote on that motion then, that the policy remains with the section E staying status quo. All those in favor? Opposed? It fails. So we'll go back to the original motion then. Do we have any other comments on the original motion? So we'll go to the vote. All those in favor? Opposed? It fails. So where do we go from here?
Both, you're saying both the amending motion as well as the original motion were both defeated. Essentially that's a decision for council. It leaves staff with no direction, and it's essentially defeated and done.
Okay, so then we will go to the referrals for the upcoming agendas. We do have a recommendation that the Finance and Corporate Services section endorse the following additional and existing referrals to upcoming agendas and staff. So we have a paper ballot consideration in 2026 municipal election. We have the staff position of grants writer, and we also have the review of municipal tax rate as it relates to municipal services. And that can be removed, I believe. Yeah, so that will be removed. So the recommendation then stays with the removal of that last item. Can I get a mover and a seconder, please? Moved by Deputy Mayor LaRose, seconded by Councillor LaRue. Any comments? Any additions? Yes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I do have an addition tonight. Several months ago, this council discussed funding regarding Tiny Township and specifically regarding our arena. I would like to add a referral item, which we discussed back in January, where the CEO was going to work with the CEO of our neighboring municipality regarding the disproportionate funding formula between us and our neighbors in Tiny Township for the use of a recreational facility, aka the arena. I want to move an agenda referral item that the CEO reports back to council with results and the move forward of the formula and the funding gap regarding the arena and Tiny Township, and this is a priority item. So I'd like to move that.
So do you have enough information there, Stacy?
I just want to double check. So I have referral item regarding the funding agreement / formula with Tiny Township for the Penetanguishene Arena, including results for the formation. Sorry, and then that's where I got off track for the funding gap, formulation of the funding gap.
Sorry, I think the CEO knows where we are. I'm happy if you go want to take it and tweak it later, but funding Tiny Arena.
Okay. Thank you for that. So we will go to vote with, oh, we didn't get a seconder? A seconder, please, for the addition, for the future agenda items with the inclusion of this last piece from our mayor. Do we have a seconder for that? Councillor Marchand. We'll go to the all in favor. Opposed, the motion carries. Do we have any questions from the media or public? Seeing none, I will return the chair back to our mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Drush. That concludes our committee of the whole for this evening. I want to thank everyone for their participation. We're going to adjourn at 9:33. A move by Councillor Marchand and second by Councillor LaRue. Call the vote. All in favor? Opposed?